Greetings, Earthlings. I'm not childish. I'm not human. I said this is where I get into heavy shit. Well, I'm going to have to back up just a hair. When my brother got busted, the fact is, my father wouldn't even go down and get him out of jail. The other guy's father went down and got both of them. So that shows how much my father cared about his son. Actually, I guess he would have sooner or later, but my father was even more of a hard ass back then. This also was when my parents finally found out we did drugs. Now, drugs to them was pot. They didn't know about anything else. And the fact is I stood my ground and said, I ain't quitting. I don't care what you say. So, of course, I create even more tension. Somewhere along here, I'm not sure. I'm trying to decide. Oh, yes. So, I go back to, I'm in college again. My brother's screwing up big time. He's not in college anymore. He's working for somebody, working for a farm. He has to be there at 6 o'clock in the morning, but he stays out all night partying. Sometimes I find him half parked in his spot at the house and half not, and things like that, and go out there and park his truck for him. It's not good, and I'm treating him like shit. Of course, I don't know that later on in life I'm gonna, turn into an alcoholic anyway, so if I'm not already. And I think that I know it all, and he's screwing everything up. Well, then he really does screw up. See, my father, now that he knows we're doing drugs, he's going to take and search our vehicles every so often. Of course, we don't know when. And I had a fairly good sized amount of hash, and I allowed him to keep it with him because I was going to college or whatever. But anyway, one night he just left the whole vial sitting there on the seat of the pickup, and my father goes out and checks. So now my father shows me this stuff. Now he's out in the shed, and he shows this to me. He says, I'm going to burn this up tonight. So now I'm pissed off at my brother, and it also happens to be Sunday night, which means I'm going back to college. So I yell at my brother and tell him, that I'm going to take it back. My brother, of course, doesn't say anything, just like always. He just keeps his mouth shut and lets anything go. I have to go out to the shed because that's where the gas tank is for our high-octane gasoline. So I go out there, fill my car up with gas, and grab that bottle and go. I get all the way to college, go into my fun house, the Addams family home, and there's a note laying on my bed to call home right away, no matter what time. So I go, call home. It's my father. You took that shit and I want it back. I said, you ain't going to get it back. He says, well, I'm going to cut up your machinery. I had a lathe in the mill. And I said, go ahead. I don't care. Because I'm tired of his trying to run my life. But then he did what always is the thing that always makes me give in, which everybody does this to me. they threatened me with someone else's stuff. And he says, well, I'm going to cut up your brother's farm equipment too. So I said, all right, I'm coming. Before I leave, though, I take about 1/3 of each chunk off, and I put the 1/3 back in the vial, and I keep the 2/3 for myself. And I don't take it with me, so I can't buy. I'm going to give him only what I've got, and that's it. So I go barreling down the road. I have this shit in my trunk. I have a bong and probably some other stuff, I don't know. Anyway, I'm at Harrisburg and I run a light, try to save a little time. You know, it's like 1 o'clock in the morning, something like that. And here's a cop behind me. So he stops me. He says, you got any good reason for, running that light? I said, well, I guess there's never really a good reason, but my excuse is I'm in a lot of trouble with my father at home, and I just thought the sooner I got there, the quicker I could get this over with. And he gives me my license back and says, just slow it down and you'll get there soon enough. I said, thank you. So I get back home. I hand him the vial. There was more than this in there. No, there wasn't. Yes, there was. There was more. I said, Pop, this is all there was. And I wouldn't be dumb enough to, risk having to deal with all this crap again. That's it. That's all there is. He probably knew I was lying because I never get away with lies. Although, if there's anybody I could lie to, it might be him. I never could lie to anybody else. So anyway, I fill my car back up with gas and back up to college I go. So I've been on the road for about 10 hours. And I get in just in time. Don't even have time to eat breakfast. I go or maybe I did eat breakfast, but anyway, I go to class. Now, I am seeing that girl now, and we're going to parties, and I'm now trying acid, and we're getting along pretty good, but life is really getting crazy for me in my head. I mean, I just don't understand anything. I don't know why things are going the way they are. I don't know what's the use in life in itself. I mean, I'm really, I'm in one of my really I'm in my deepest depression I've ever had. Of course, none of my others were ever even addressed. My parents didn't think there was anything wrong, even though I'd say I'm going crazy. And I was talking to my girlfriend about this, and the only thing she could suggest is go out and party. And in fact, not long, and I really can't remember whether this is before or after, but I'm pretty sure it's before. I had my greatest high of all time. And this probably helped put me into more depression. One day when I got home from college, my girlfriend gave me a hit of blotter, and she had cut it up into 4 pieces. Well, I went in, laid on the bed, and when I rolled over, it was like, whoa, things are going crazy. Now, crazy to me is still, I know what's reality. It's, And apparently the other three didn't get anything out of it. I got all the chemicals, and I had killer weed, so I was having fun with that at the same time, and it was kicking me off like nobody's business. Well, anyway, I went to a party, and there was Booker. Now, I don't know if I'd said this before, but Booker was also a born-again Christian. Now, he didn't, I never took it really seriously, but every so often he would sort of get on in his God mode, and he would try to straighten himself out, and he would try to bring other people along. And we're there at the party, and he comes up to me and says, "You believe in God?" I said, "Yeah, I believe in God." I mean, I had gone to church my whole life, a dead church, but I still had gone. You know, dead meaning they didn't preach Christianity. They just, in fact, it was all, theoretical or, stories, not necessarily true. And says, "Well, you ever pray to him?" And I said, "No, I don't." He says, "Well, why not?" And he just walks away. Well, that must have stuck in my mind, because several nights after that, I'm laying in bed and I'm just totally out of it. I mean, I guess if there would have been an easy way, I would have committed suicide right then and there. But his words rung in my mind, and I said a prayer. Now, this is my prayer. Help. That's all I had to say. And I'm going to tell you this. For any of you out there that are seeking that kind of direction, seeking the direction of God, that's all you have to say. Because when you say that, you're telling him everything. You're telling him you're out of control. You're telling him that you're going to trust him to show you how to get out of this shit. You're telling him that you have nowhere else to turn. And I didn't. I really didn't. Some other people may think they do, and that's fine. I'm not trying to drive this down anybody's throat. It's up to you. But this is what happened to me. As I laid there, it was like something just went right through my body. And I felt as at peace as I had ever been in my whole life. And I didn't feel like there was any drugs or alcohol in me at all. I felt 100% clean. And I slept like a baby. And the next day I felt great. And I went to my classes and did everything I was supposed to do, and just thought how wonderful the world is. I mean, that's how great it was at the time. Now I'm going to kind of shift directions, but like if you go to an AA meeting, they'll tell you the pink cloud doesn't last forever. Well, that feeling of euphoria doesn't last forever, because you really do have a life to live, and you're going to have the ups and downs and pains and everything else. But for the moment, everything was cool. Everything was good. I even told other people about my experience, and that's called witnessing. That's true witnessing. That's not trying to push it down somebody else's throat. That's just saying, look, this is what happened to me. You know? Then I started wondering, how could I have been reached by a guy like Booker? He's a womanizer, he's a drug addict, he smokes cigarettes like a chimney, he's very capable of lying. It's amazing who God can use, so never question those kinds of things, except whether you want to stay and follow. But you do want to question whether you want to trust the person or just trust what happened to you. You want to just trust what happened to you. That's what God did. See, I can't save you, and Booker couldn't save me. God had to, but I had to say I was ready. I'm going to talk about that more, and I want to say, because I want to try to reach people, that I'm not trying to push them to be a Christian. I'm trying to let you know there is a spiritual world out there. There's something greater than us. Now, if at some point you come to the conclusion that, Christ is that for you, then that's great. My goal really is just to put this out there for you. And this is one thing that's going to change a little bit on my videos. I think a couple of videos back I mentioned that my brother said you can't hardly have a conversation without God being in it somewhere. Well, the whole title of this being Why Me is, why did God choose to do this? Why did he choose to have my life live out the way it has? And it's not over. Some days I wish it was. My depression hasn't been beat. Later on, I find that I'm an alcoholic. I'm lucky that I'm not a drug addict as well. But at least now I have somewhere to turn, even though I can tell you that as time goes on, I get frustrated quite often. And in fact, when I started these videos, I had already gone through a long stretch of frustration and questioning of what's going on. And I haven't gotten much further on that as far as for myself. But I think, if people watch the videos, they're gonna find out, that there is hope. And there's actually a life after this. Now, you don't have to believe me, and you're not supposed to. You got to prove it for yourself. So, talk to you next time. Maybe you're a little more at a higher level of immaturity.